Let's talk about something truly rare in royal, watching a moment where Buckingham Palace, of all places, decides to clear its throat, straighten its tie, and say, actually, no, that narrative is not true. That's exactly what has just happened in Prince Harry's long-running, exhausting, and emotionally draining security battle. Honestly, if you had told me a few years ago that the palace would be forced to publicly correct misinformation in a way that benefits Prince Harry, I would have asked which alternate universe we were living in. For years, Prince Harry's security fight has been misrepresented in every possible way, from entitlement to tantrum, depending on which tabloid needed clicks that day. But here's the reality that keeps getting buried under opinion pieces written by people whose biggest daily risk assessment is deciding which pub to hit after work. Prince Harry isn't asking for vibes or empty gestures. He's asking for protection, real, professional, intelligence-led security. The same system that protected him for most of his life. The same system that understands actual threats, not Twitter hot takes. Currently, the Duke of Sussex is awaiting a verdict on whether he will receive UK taxpayer-funded protection after formally requesting a review back in October. The tone around this case has shifted dramatically. For months, we were told Harry had no chance. Zero. Zip. Case closed. Move along. And now, suddenly, sources are whispering that the tides may be turning in his favour. Funny how that happens when facts show up uninvited. Let's not forget Prince Harry himself described his initial security loss as an establishment stitch-up. Judging by how this has played out with constant leaks, selective briefings, and breathless headlines predicting defeat before decisions were even made, it's not exactly a wild accusation. Yet, despite that history, Buckingham Palace has now stepped in to shut down claims that it's somehow pulling strings behind the scenes to influence the outcome. Here's where things get interesting. There was a loud suggestion circulating that Prince Harry had already won his security case and that the announcement was merely a formality unless the palace intervened. Cue the dramatic music, the pearl clutching, and the usual palace power games narrative. Except no. A royal aide swiftly labelled those claims as both unjust and inaccurate. In royal language, that's about as polite as it gets before someone disappears from the Christmas card list. The palace made it very clear. It does not have the power to decide Harry's security outcome. While they sit on the Royal and VIP Executive Committee, they do not dictate threat analysis, risk levels, or protective measures. That responsibility lies entirely with intelligence and security professionals, the people whose job it actually is to understand danger rather than speculate about it from a studio sofa. This is a crucial point that keeps getting intentionally misunderstood. Prince Harry's security is not about feelings. It's about risk assessment, credible threats, history, visibility, and ongoing targeting. The idea that a man who has spent decades in the public eye, served in active combat, spoken openly about trauma, and challenged powerful institutions somehow magically becomes low risk because he moved countries is laughable. One source familiar with the proceedings even doubled down, stating clearly that no one knows what the Risk Management Board will recommend because the review is still ongoing, which exposes how reckless some reporting has been. If the professionals reviewing the case don't know the outcome yet, how exactly do anonymous tabloid sources have divine foresight? Unless crystal balls are now part of journalism degrees. What we're witnessing is something the palace rarely does, publicly correcting the record in a way that removes blame from Prince Harry and places the process where it belongs with security experts. This isn't about favouritism, it's about accuracy. And for a royal institution that typically prefers silence, that correction is deafening. Let's also consider the bigger context everyone loves to ignore. Prince Harry isn't just fighting for himself, he's fighting for the safety of his wife, Meghan Sussex, and their children. No parent with the resources to protect their family would shrug and say, "Oh well." Harry has repeatedly said he wants to bring his family to the UK safely. That's it. That's the goal. Not privilege, not drama, safety. And yet, whenever this comes up, certain corners of the media act as though Harry personally unplugged the security cameras just to complain later. The lack of empathy is astounding, especially given the very public history of what happens when royal security fails. Adding to the intrigue, reports suggest that ties between Prince Harry and King Charles may be improving. Yes, despite years of doom-laden headlines predicting eternal frost, we're now hearing whispers of an olive branch. Harry is reportedly extending an invitation to King Charles, not just to attend the Invictus Games, but to open the ceremony alongside him. That's not a small gesture. That's not passive. That's intentional. Think about the symbolism. Invictus is Harry's legacy project, built on resilience, recovery, and service. Inviting the king to stand beside him is not an act of defiance, it's an act of reconciliation. This completely dismantles the narrative that Harry's obsessed with burning bridges. If anything, he keeps offering planks, nails and blueprints, while critics insist he's holding a match. Of course, some commentators are already trying to reframe this as Harry needing royal validation, because heaven forbid a son repair a relationship with his father without it being twisted into a power struggle. The reality is far simpler. Harry is showing maturity. He's extending grace while still standing firm on matters of safety and principle. And the fact that the palace felt compelled to clarify its position at all tells us one thing. The misinformation had gone out of control. When even Buckingham Palace says, "Nope, that's not how this works," you know the narrative machine has gone off the rails. What we're seeing now is not a palace choosing sides, but a palace choosing accuracy. And in this case, accuracy happens to benefit Prince Harry. It acknowledges that his concerns are legitimate, that the process is ongoing, and that decisions are based on professional assessments, not personal grudges or family politics. That alone dismantles years of lazy storytelling. Prince Harry has been patient. He has followed the legal process. He has challenged decisions through proper channels. Despite being painted as confrontational, the facts show someone engaging with institutions exactly as they should. The irony is that the same people who accuse him of attacking the system lose their minds when he uses it. Meanwhile, Meghan Sussex shows quiet strength. While Harry takes the legal hits, she continues to be dragged into the conversation by people desperate to blame her for everything under the sun. Yet the core issue remains unchanged. A family wanting to visit the UK without fearing for their lives. That's not radical. That's reasonable. So, where does this leave us? It leaves us with a palace publicly distancing itself from false claims, a security review still very much active, a prince refusing to back down when it comes to protecting his family, and a growing realization that old narratives simply aren't holding up anymore. No matter what the final decision is, one thing is clear. The days of dismissing Prince Harry's security concerns as paranoia or privilege are over. Too many facts have surfaced. Too many corrections have been issued. Too many people are finally asking the obvious question: why was this ever treated like a joke in the first place? If the verdict comes back in Harry's favour, just watch how fast the same critics who mocked him pivot to pretending it was inevitable all along. Different headline, same backpedaling. Before we wrap up, let me say this clearly. Prince Harry standing his ground on security is not weakness. It's leadership. It's responsibility. And it's exactly what we should expect from someone who has seen firsthand the consequences of institutional failure. Drop your thoughts in the comments because this conversation is far from over. And, as always, stay curious, stay critical, and we'll see you in the next one.